Light can be shaped in many different ways. Can be changed in color and temperature with gels. With diffusion materials, hard light can be transformed into soft light, can be reflected or bounced, or it can be blocked completely. Also, the form of light can be shaped with spotlights or other materials between your subject and the light, like a cardboard or cucoloris with random forms in them to create structures in the background. And light can be directed on how much it should be spread or stay directed, with barn doors, grids, and so on. So first we make a single hard source light soft. Therefore you can make use of different softboxes, like the well-known octabox, or other shapes like a rectangle softbox which directs the light more in the height, or broad, depending on how you place it. Or round lanterns which spread the lights evenly throughout the space. If you need even bigger soft lights, you can use flex or bigger diffusion frames like 4x4, 6x6 or an 8x8, but there are even bigger ones. Simply direct the light source directly into them to diffuse it. There exist different types of diffusion materials, thinner ones that diffuse the light less and have less light loss, and thicker materials that give you softer light but more light loss. So you have to use stronger lights if you need more light through a thick diffusion. Let's compare two diffusion materials which come with the aperture light dome. The first one reduces the light by 1.5 stops and the second one by 2.5 stops. But which light do you prefer more? I think it depends on the look that you are going for. Always think on that when you diffuse the light. The closer the softbox or the diffusion is to your subject, the softer the light. I have three different types of diffusion on rolls from Lee filter to show you the effect they create. That is full white 216W, which diffuses the light by 1.5 stops, or 250 half white diffusion, which reduces the light by 3/4 stops, or an opal frost, which reduces the light by a half stop, which I use mainly to soften the sunlight to get rid of the hard edges that sunlight creates. There are thousands of different flavors of diffusion, but these three types work the best for me. These rolls are handy because you can place them on a normal C-stand and reuse it over and over again. The only downside is to use it outdoors in windy situations. It creates a lot of noise. You can clamp it or stick it to a flag with gaffer tape to minimize this noise. Another use case is to mount it on the window, so you don't see what's behind the window. If you shine a light on it, it creates a soft diffused light effect, as you get with a tinted window. Flags and bigger diffusion frames normally come with diffusion on them, but you can change their strength by buying a separate diffusion material if you need to. The big 8x8 I use mainly outside to get rid of the direct hard sunlight, or to create a very big soft light source, but therefore you need a pretty strong light. The last diffusion material I want to show you is unbleached muslin. It's a relatively thick fabric that creates a very soft light, but you need also here a strong light source. Makes the light also slightly warmer because it's unbleached. The cheap option to get a big soft light is to use a shower curtain to diffuse the light. Here is comparison of the relatively expensive diffusion material from Lee filter to a normal shower curtain. I think it works just as fine. You can also soften a hard light source by bouncing it from a white surface. That can be anything from a white wall, styrofoam board to a solid white fabric. Everything that is white and reflects your light. Because you have a bigger surface closer to your subject, the light will get softer compared to a single hard source light. By bouncing the light, you can also create the illusion that you use two lights, but in reality you used only one. The already soft light on the key side from your subject will be bounced back. Therefore, place a bounce board close to the shadow side from the subject, but still out of frame, so you get a fill light only by using one light and a bounce. In the same way, you can also work with sunlight. Simply bounce the sunlight back to the subject. This way you need no light at all. I like to place the sun behind the subject so you can shoot on the shadow side. And if needed, you can bounce the sunlight back to the subject to get a more evenly lit situation. If you use different colors of materials, that will also reflect those colors to your subject. Reflectors don't soften the light, it works more like a mirror, it reflects the light. And with the golden reflector, you will get also a very golden looking light on your subject. And silver, well, looks like silver. When you bounce the light, try to place the bounce material above the subject, because it looks more natural than from the downside up to your subject, except you go especially for this look. If you need to bounce a bigger area with light, you also need a bigger white surface, like a 6x6, 8x8, or simply a bigger foldable reflector. Another way is to use a mirror to bounce or redirect the light to your subject. Therefore, you can use a simple small mirror, place it on a stand and direct the light directly on the mirror. Now you can control the light with the mirror. If you place randomly some pieces of gaffer tape on the mirror, you get the effect like a colorist does for you. But that's not all, you can also block the light to create more contrast, called negative fill. Therefore, you can use any sort of black material, like a flag with a solid black fabric, or simply paint one side of the styrofoam black. The bigger and closer the material to your subject is, the more light gets blocked, and the more shadows you create on your subject. This way you can also block light from spilling at places you don't want it. The same works to direct other lights. For example, with the lantern you can add a skirt, so the light doesn't spill on the background anymore. It is now directed on your subject. You can do that with any black material on light sources to direct the light, also with flags. Works also to block the light which comes from a window, or simply use the shutters. So what I like a lot is cinefoil. It's like aluminium foil, but it's black and thicker, so you can block the light everywhere you want by simply placing a piece of cinefoil with gaffer tape or clamps to the light source. Bigger light sources like softboxes or frames can be directed more when you use a honeycomb. This reduces the spill and directs the light more to your subject, as you see in this example. Therefore, you have also other light formers like a Fresnel and barn doors to direct the light where you want it. With the Fresnel itself, you gain more output from the light because the light can be more concentrated on one spot, from a wide beam angle to a small one. Even more possibilities you will get with the spotlight adapter like this one from Aperture. It's the same as a Lico light. The downside is that you have only one fixed beam angle. If you want to go wider or tighter than that, you have to buy another one. You have inbuilt light cutters that work like barn doors. You can cut the light everywhere you want or create shapes out of it by using this cutter to light only one part of the image. Maybe interesting for you to know is if you use the left cutter, you cut the right. Everything is mirrored because of the lens. Creates much more defined lines compared to a regular barn door on a Fresnel. If you want an even smaller light point, you can use a light cutter that looks like an aperture. So you can get a much smaller light point to light a specific part, like a disco ball in this example. But the best part is you can use gobos with every possible pattern, as you see here. That gives you many options to light your background or your subject, which is simply amazing. Lastly, there are gels. Most of the LED lights come with a fixed temperature, which is daylight at 5600K. But if you want to get a warmer look, you can buy a bicolor light or cheaper, buy gels. Gels can be used to make a cool light warmer by adding CTO, orange colored gels, or a warm light cooler by adding CTB, blue colored gels. Also, if you have a cheap LED light that has a green tint in it, you can correct that by adding magenta to it, or the opposite. There are also a lot of color gels which make your light source a color light. If you don't have the money to buy a full RGB light, that would be the cheap way to get a color light. Sometimes it's also helpful to correct lights, if you have on location some lights that are not very accurate. I believe shaping light is now no challenge anymore for you. Try it by yourself to get some routine. With the time you get some experience to know exactly when you use which method to diffuse or direct your light. And now let's create.